Imagine a king who thought he was made of glass. Not metaphorically, literally.
Don't touch me or I'll shatter into pieces.
Huh?
Before madness, Charles was just a privileged kid with a giant inheritance problem. Born in Paris in 1368, Charles was the son of Charles V, a king known as the Wise, which, let's be honest, set the bar a little too high. At age 11, Charles inherited the throne. That's right, he was handed a kingdom before he even hit puberty. Naturally, he couldn't rule alone, so his uncle stepped in. And by stepped in, I mean they looted the treasury like it was a Black Friday sale. They raised taxes, made enemies, and basically used France like their own medieval cash cow. But Charles grew up, and when he turned 21, he booted the old dudes and brought in his bros, idealistic young reformers nicknamed the Marmousets, which sounds more like a boy band than a political faction. Things actually went pretty well. The people adored him. They called him Charles the Beloved. Fast forward to 1392. Charles was 24, dressed in full armor, riding with his knights through a forest like a medieval Avengers team. They were heading to punish a traitor. It was hot. Everyone was cranky. And then Charles just snapped. Out of nowhere, he started screaming, pulled his sword, and went full berserker on his own knights. Slashed 2 of them, frothing at the mouth. Then he passed out cold. When he woke up, he had no memory of the incident. Everyone else, however, remembered way too much. Doctors didn't understand what had happened, and the people of France were worried. After that, Charles changed. Sometimes he seemed fine. Other times, he was lost in confusion or rage. Nobody knew what was happening or how to help. Over the next few years, Charles's illness got worse. He would go silent for days, staring at nothing. Other times, he shouted at people who weren't there or attacked servants. He developed strange fears. He believed water was poisoned and refused to bathe. He forgot who his wife and children were. He thought he was made of glass and that any touch might break him. To stay safe, he had metal rods sewn into his clothes to protect his body. This made it very hard for anyone to manage the kingdom. The royal council tried to hide the truth, but word spread. The people began calling him Charles the Mad, and sadly, it was true. Because Charles was often too sick to rule, others tried to take control. His brother, Louis of Orléans, wanted power, but the Duke of Burgundy opposed him. The two sides began to fight for control. The kingdom was divided. Nobody was truly in charge. Charles's illness left a gap that others rushed to fill. Queen Isabeau of Bavaria, Charles's wife, tried to keep things going. She took part in decisions and worked to keep peace. But people didn't like a woman having so much power, and rumors spread about her. France was becoming weaker every day. In 1407, Charles's brother Louis was murdered in the streets of Paris. The Duke of Burgundy admitted he ordered it. This started a civil war. The kingdom was split into 2 sides, those who supported the Duke of Orléans and those who backed the Duke of Burgundy. There were fights in the streets and battles in the countryside. Even the royal palace was affected. All of this happened while Charles was too sick to lead. Queen Isabeau continued trying to hold things together, but the division grew worse. The kingdom was falling apart and enemies were watching. While France was fighting itself, England saw a chance to strike. King Henry V of England brought his army across the sea. The 2 armies met at the Battle of Agincourt in 1415. The French army was unorganized. The nobles argued and didn't work together. Charles was not able to lead. The result was a terrible loss. Thousands of French soldiers died. Henry V's army began taking over parts of France. The country was in crisis. Charles remained locked in his illness, unaware of how bad things had become. In 1420, the French court signed the Treaty of Troyes. It said that when Charles died, the crown would go to Henry V of England, not to Charles's son. Henry also married Charles's daughter, Catherine. This made the treaty even stronger. Charles's son, the Dauphin, was left out completely. He was no longer considered the future king. Many people were shocked, but Charles was too sick to understand or stop it. His advisors made the decision for him. France now had 2 claimants to the throne, one English, one French. In his last years, Charles's condition worsened. He often sat quietly, not speaking or moving. Sometimes he spoke to people who weren't there. Other times, he didn't speak at all for months. He didn't seem to know what was real and what wasn't. His wife and servants did their best to care for him. But there was little they could do. His son had moved to the south of France and called himself king. The English controlled large parts of the country. Charles's own role had become symbolic. The country was being led by others. Charles VI died in 1422 at the age of 53. He had been king for more than 40 years, but much of that time was filled with illness and chaos. After his death, the Treaty of Troyes took effect. The King of England claimed the French crown, but Charles's son did not accept this. He fought back and later became Charles VII. With help from Joan of Arc, he worked to take France back from the English. Charles VI is remembered as a tragic figure. He may have suffered from a serious mental illness, but in his time, people didn't understand such conditions. His reign shows how one person's illness can affect an entire country